Hey everyone! Today I am so excited to be participating in a special Instagram hop brought to you by a group of us from the Ali Edwards Brand Ambassadors team, plus Ali herself. And over on Instagram, we're going to be sharing some layouts that we've created using the black and white scrapbook kit that was just released a couple of months ago. So make sure to head on over to Instagram to check out this hop, starting from Ali's Instagram account. And several of us are sharing process videos for our layouts here on YouTube as well. I'll make sure to leave a link to all of our participants in the description box below so you can check out all of our videos. So for today's video, similar to the previous rainbow scrapbook kit, I've managed to make 5 layouts using the black and white scrapbook kit, and I'm going to be sharing the process videos for most of those layouts here today. A few of the layouts that I'm working on today are 6x8 layouts outside the page protector for my Me, Myself, and I album, based on the prompts from Haba al-Sabai. And this first layout that I'm working on today is for the prompt, "The Internet Made Me Do This." I'm starting on my computer on my Brother Scan and Cut software, and I want to cut out a heart pocket from some vellum. So I went through all of my digital files from Ali, and I really liked this heart shape from Pam Baldwin's Playing with Paper class. So I'm going to select the image tracing option on the Canvas software, and it'll trace a cut line all the way around the shape of this heart. And because this is going to be a right-sided page in my album, I'm going to flip this image horizontally so that the heart is on the bottom right corner of my page, and then size it down a bit so that the heart won't interfere with the binder ring holes along the left side of my page. And here you'll see that I've cut out the heart onto some vellum. And for my background, I'm going to use this black pattern paper with the XOXOs in white, and I thought the vellum would stand out the most on this darker background. Next, I'm going to arrange these gold foiled black and white flowers from the scrapbook kit onto my vellum heart, overlapping some of the flowers to cover up as much surface area as I can. And I'm just going to start adhering these down using my tape runner. Once I have this first group of flowers adhered down, I'm going to trim around the edge of that vellum part to cut off those overhanging parts of the flowers, and then use some of those extra bits that I've cut out to fill in some of the smaller bits that I have on the vellum heart, because I don't want any of that to go to waste. So some of this is going to be off camera, but this is pretty straightforward. And once I'm done, I just end up with a vellum heart that's covered in these gold foiled flowers. And my plan is to sew the bottom and right edges of the heart down onto my background paper so that it creates a pocket. I've printed out 2 3x4 journaling cards with lists of crafty supplies that I need and crafty supplies that I want. And these are all things that I've added onto my crafty wish list by browsing on the internet and getting inspired by some crafty friends and some crafty scrapbooking stores that I follow, so hence the title, "The Internet Made Me Do This." I've left enough room on the tops of these journaling cards to fit the plastic words "need" and "want" that came in the scrapbook kit, and my plan is to sew those onto the journaling cards later on. To mimic the bold look of those black titles with the white letters, I'm going to use my Dymo label maker to punch out my title, "The Internet Made Me Do This," and cut out each word separately, and then mat each word onto some white cardstock so that it stands out a bit more on this dark background. And I'm just going to adhere these down onto the top left corner of my page, as well as some of these gold chipboard stars from the scrapbook kit, before I take these pages off screen to do some sewing. I'm just not quite confident enough to sew on camera yet. And here's a look at my finished layout. The next page I'm making for my Me, Myself, and I album is for the prompt "My Fears," and I thought it would be cool to use this photo that I took of me in the bathroom looking at this pile of all the white hairs that I plucked from my head one day as a kind of segue to document my fear of dying. And I'm going to be keeping this page quite simple, starting off on my computer in Microsoft Word. I'm going to be using this oval pattern paper from the Scrapbook kit, and the thing I like about these large black spots is that it's very easy to add lots of journaling in white text. I'm going to start by flipping this image horizontally because I wanted that slanted vertical half of the oval on the right side. This is going to be a right-sided page for my 6x8 album, and I'm going to be adding my title in that half oval on the right side later on. But while I'm in Microsoft Word, I'm just going to insert a text box, and I do have to right-click the text box and select in front of text under the wrap text menu so that I can drag this text box over my on top of my pattern paper. And I'm going to right-click this again to change it so that there's no outline or fill color in this text box. And then change the text to white so that it's legible on the black oval. And I'll do my typing off screen later on. Next, I'm going to drag in my photo, and again, I'm going to have to right-click on it and select the option in front of text so that I can drag this photo over top of my pattern paper. And I'm just going to size this down so that it'll fit into that top oval on the top of my page. And to make sure that I have my photo at the right size and that I'm not going to be cutting off any important features in the photo when I'm cutting it into that oval shape, I'm going to right click on the photo and then send it to the back so that the pattern paper is now on top of my photo. And then I'm going to temporarily play around with the transparency of this pattern paper by right clicking on it, then choosing the format picture option, then going into the picture menu and increasing the transparency. And you can see my photo start to appear from behind that pattern paper so that I can make sure it'll look just fine inside that oval shape. Once I'm sure that my photo is the correct size, I'm going to undo all of those transparency changes, and then I'm going to copy and paste my photo onto another Word document to print it out at that size. And I'm going to print out that oval pattern paper once my journaling is done as well. I've also printed out a duplicate copy of just that top oval that I'm going to be placing my photo in. And I'm going to trim out that oval shape so that I can use that as a template to cut around my photo. Just adhering the template down onto my photo so that it's a bit easier to cut around. And I am cutting at about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of that oval shape so that I have 1/8 of an inch space around my whole photo. Once I have my photo adhered down onto my page, I'm just going to add the title My Fears using the white puffy alphabet stickers from the Storytelling Basics collection. I did have to cut apart one of these Zs to make the bottom ledge of my E, just because I've run out of my letter E's. And I did kind of play around with the placement of these letters as well. I thought it would just look nice to follow this curve of the oval shape here, and that's my layout all done. The next layout that I'm making for my Me, Myself, and I album is documenting the prompt Celebrate Me. And I'm going to make an interactive page to document the fact that I reached 3,000 subscribers on YouTube back in May. So this pattern paper with all these black lines going across it kind of reminded me of balloon strings if you rotate it at 90 degrees. So I'm going to take this into my Microsoft Word document and rotate this at 90 degrees and enlarge it a bit so that the lines are a bit more spaced out. And then crop it down so that I have a 7-inch wide by 8¼ inch tall piece of pattern paper. And next I needed to find some balloons for my balloon strings. So I thought about this flower stamp from the Scents Story Kit that was released last month, and these petals kind of look like balloons. So I'm importing the SVG file of this flower stamp into my Brother Scan and Cut software, and I do have to enlarge it because the original stamp is really small. And after that, I'm going to isolate the 2 petals that are vertically oriented, get rid of some of the background noise in the stamp, and then resize each of the balloons so that they're about 1 inch wide by about 2 inches tall. I'm going to be using these to spell out the word celebrate, so I'm going to be needing 9 of these in total. And the next step after that is to figure out what colors I want to make these balloons. So while I was in the Sense Story Kit, I found this 3x4 journaling card that had all of these colors surrounding the center circle, and I really liked that linen texture of each of these color spots. So I'm going to enlarge that journaling card so that I can fit a 1 inch wide by 2 inches tall rectangle into each of those color spots. And I'm going to be using my Brother Scan and Cut machine to cut out the balloons from each of these color spots. Now, some of the other options that you can do is you can recolor this digital stamp on either Microsoft Word or Canva and print out the image in the colors you want and then fussy cut out each balloon. Or you can use pattern papers or colored papers in your electronic cutting machine with the balloon cut files. But I thought the linen texture of these color spots would add a nice touch to my page, and my Brother Scan and Cut machine makes it really easy to scan in anything that I've printed out and move the cut files to the right spot to cut out each of these colors. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I've also printed out my screenshot that I took the day that I reached 3,000 subscribers on YouTube, as well as some journaling about the progress I've made with my crafty social media accounts. And I've put those together on the bottom of a piece of white cardstock that's 5 1/4 inches wide. That's just wide enough for me to fit 9 of these balloons across the page if I kind of stagger and overlap them a bit. But it's also narrow enough that I'll be able to make a pocket in my balloon string pattern paper to slide this in. Just adhering all these balloons down here, and at this point in time I was kind of getting tired. It was like the end of the day, so to avoid having decision fatigue, I just adhered them down in the order that the colors appeared in the journaling card. And I did accidentally get some adhesive on the exposed back sides of the red balloons on each end. So I'm going to use my adhesive eraser later on to make sure that I don't have any adhesive left on those overhanging parts. Next, I'm going to spell out the word celebrate with the gold puffy alphabet stickers from the Storytelling Basics collection. And again, I did have to do some surgery to get those letter E's. And after that, I'm going to use a felt tip pen from Ali Edwards to draw in some balloon strings for each of these balloons. And I just think that is super cute. Just going to trim off the top excess part of that white cardstock above the balloons and round the corners. And after that, I'm going to place this insert and kind of center it over my pattern paper and mark down where I want to make my slit for my pocket. And I do want some of the balloon strings to be showing, but I do want my journaling and screenshot to be hidden while this insert is inside the pocket. So to make that slit, I'm going to use my paper trimmer to make a cut between those two marks that I just made, and then shift my paper just a tiny bit to the right and make another cut, and then use my scissors to cut away that tiny strip of paper. And eventually this page is going to be stuck on the back of another page in my album. So I'm going to line the 4 sides of my pocket with some 1/8 inch score tape as a reminder that I can't put any adhesive behind that pocket section. After that, I have this felt word that came in the Scrapbook kit, and I'm just adhering those letters just below my pocket so that my title reads "Celebrate This." Usually I would use score tape for something like this, but one of my crafty friends, I think it was Amber, recommended red line tape as a stronger alternative to score tape. So this is actually my first time using red line tape, and I'll have to say I didn't really like it as much. I thought it was maybe like a combination of the fact that I'm so used to being able to tear off whatever length I need with the score tape, and with the red line tape you kind of have to cut it with scissors, and I think It's a stronger adhesive, but the backer is a lot harder to peel off with the redline tape than the backer for score tape, even with using tweezers. So I think I'll just save the redline tape for things like felt that are a bit harder to adhere down, and stick with score tape for most of the other things that I want to be really stuck down. And lastly, because the bottom felt a bit plain, I decided to add a line of these chipboard stars from the Scrapbook kit, just alternating between the black, the white, and the gold. And that's another layout done. The last layout that I'm going to be sharing the process video for today is an interactive double page layout for my Life Crafted album, documenting a good friend's wedding that we went to a few weeks ago. I'm starting off again in Microsoft Word and using the pattern paper that says love in cursive writing all over it, which I thought would be perfect for documenting a wedding. And I'm going to be printing this out on my toner printer so that I can do some gold foiling. Now, because this pattern paper has some light gray lines going across it, and I didn't want those to be foiled, I'm going to right-click on this image and go to Format Picture, then head into the Picture menu, and under Brightness and Contrast, I'm going to adjust the brightness up. Not so high that you can no longer see the love cursive writing, but high enough so that the gray horizontal lines disappear. I have this set at about 70% brightness. And after that, I'm going to crop this down so that it's the same size as my Life Crafted album page, and print this out on my toner printer onto some vellum that's safe for using in a laser printer. Over to the side here, I've been preheating my laminator on the highest heat setting so that it's ready to do some foiling. I have a piece of gold transfer foil that I've previously used to foil some stars onto a different page, but not to worry, I can still use this here. I'm going to place the foil with the gold side facing up on top of my vellum page, and then sandwich this between the folds of some regular printer paper so that it'll feed through the laminator a bit more easily, and then run this through my laminator. And as the toner ink heats up in the laminator, it melts and gets a bit sticky, which allows it to cling onto the transfer foil. So once it's gone through the laminator, I have gold foil on the areas where I had toner ink printed on my vellum. Now, because I've previously used this piece of gold foil before and there's gold foil missing from certain areas, I'm going to have to switch the orientation of the gold foil and run it through again, and by the third pass through, I will have foiled most of the areas. Now, during this third pass through, I let the laminator do its job while I was getting some other pieces of my layout sorted out, but because the vellum is kind of thin and flimsy, it kind of curled up onto itself as it was getting heated up and got sucked back into the laminator. So I did have to turn off the laminator and turn it onto reverse to get this guy out. But no worries, I'm going to trim off that wrinkly part later on, and you'll hardly notice that I had damaged my vellum piece once I'm done my layout. For the left page of this layout, I have a collage of 3 photos that I took during the wedding, and I'm going to layer this with some torn vellum and add some sewing later on with some gold thread to add some texture and shine to this page. As for my vellum page, I'm going to add a 3x4 photo to each side of the vellum. And because the color theme for this wedding was pink, I'm going to add a pink ampersand from the ampersand story kit to decorate that front photo as well. I also have a piece of transparency that I've cut to 3 inches tall by 5 inches wide, and I'm going to be sewing that on down to this grid pattern paper to make a pocket to hold some extra photos, journaling, and ephemera. Now that I have all of my sewing done, I'm going to work on the inserts that are going inside this back pocket. So first I have these 2 photo strips that I made with the photos that we took at the photo booth. and I'm going to back them with this black pattern paper to give the photo strips a bit more stability. Now, this pattern paper is supposed to have the white triangle shapes pointing up so that they look kind of like mountains, but if you turn it upside down, I think the white shapes kind of look like small hearts, so that's just what I'm going with here. I also have some ephemera pieces from the wedding that I'm going to paper clip together using this fancy gold diamond paper clip. I think this was from Heidi Swap's planner collection at one point in time. And last but not least, I've typed out my journaling onto the pattern paper with the 6 circles on it that say memories and moments. I fussy cut out each of those and punched a hole at the top so that I can hold them together with a brad and swivel through them to read them. This heart brad is from the Peaceful Heart collection from Jen Hadfield. And to prevent the prongs of the brad from scratching the photos in this pocket, I decided to back the very last journaling circle with some leftover pattern paper. This is just some of that leftover grid paper that I used for the background for this pocket page. And I did decide to stamp a pink heart onto that back as well, just because I had pulled out this heart stamp from the Connect Story stamp set, thinking that I was going to make a background with stamping earlier on before I changed my mind. And that's going to get added into that pocket once the ink has dried. But in the meantime, I'm going to make sure my holes are punched and then place everything inside this Life Crafted album. And I am going to add a couple of those gold chipboard stars onto this front page as well, just to give that a bit more shine and sparkle. And here's a quick flip through that completed layout. For this last layout that I'm sharing in today's video, I used the Circle Starburst pattern paper from the black and white scrapbook kit to serve as the background for some circle photos and circle embellishments. And then I created a little swivel pull tab on the right side of my layout to document our trip to the Seattle Space Needle. And for this spread, I've already shared a process video. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description box below. I hope you enjoyed these 5 ideas for using the black and white scrapbook kit from Ali Edwards. Make sure to like this video and subscribe if you're new to my channel, and make sure to check out our Instagram hop and the rest of the YouTube process videos in this hop as well. Thanks so much for watching!